Welcome to the Reality Is podcast, where we're here talking about real life and real faith and love and marriage, love. And so here's our final clip on love and marriage from our pastor, Richard, and his wife, Joy. We truly hope you enjoy it. Tune in. Questions. And this one has to do with personal growth and individuality. We just said earlier, right, in Matthew 19:6, they are no longer two, but one. But in reality, you guys are two individual people. You have two different goals. You have two different ideas. You have two different thoughts. But you come together as one in those thoughts and those goals. So here's the first question. How do you balance personal goals with your shared goals?
You go first. I got to think.
Well, I have always been a goal-oriented, goal-driven person. I look back over my life, and that's just been who I am.
Yeah.
And so how we balance that and how we do that for us is, if it's a professional goal, then we recognize that goal is not my goal, it's our goal. And so I work a lot of hours. I have a study at home. I spend a lot of time in there. It's the way I am. If I'm not out doing something, I'm in my study. I can't waste time. That's just the way I'm wired. But we recognize that that's a common goal. That's a goal that's taking us where we need to be. When it's a personal goal, then I think we have found ways to support one another in that and to encourage one another in that. We, again, goes back to the communication. We talk, we encourage. If she's speaking somewhere or writing something or teaching a group, she may talk to me about that, may work through that and things of that nature. So it really is just, again, coming alongside, giving the space for that, not being selfish of the time, not being territorial of the time, recognizing that there is a goal, but if I'm just locking myself in my study and she's got no idea what I'm doing, I may be speaking at a men's conference or a retreat, or I may be writing something for a sermon. I may be writing something for something else. If I tell her what I'm doing, then she can support that goal. Mm-hmm. But if she has no idea what I'm doing in there, then she doesn't know how to support that.
Exactly.
Well, I don't support a lot of his goals because they're crazy. I mean, y'all don't know how much I have to pray to keep that man alive because of some of his goals and things he wants to do in life and
like
stuff.
driving a Harley across country.
Or pig hunting, and I don't know what else they do. I mean, you're 60. Anyway, be interested in their goals.
Okay.
And sometimes I feel like I need to speak words of wisdom, and that's a bad goal to have. But if he decides to pursue it, then I pray a lot, and I just, I try to be interested in it myself. I've learned a lot about fishing and hunting and da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yep.
So
I saw that in an article once about a wife whose husband loved golf, and man, she just couldn't stand golf. She's just like, but it was something her husband loved. And so she decided, I'm going to learn how to play golf. And then she started playing golf with him. And she found the joy of it and loved it. And it was something that she took interested in because he took interested in. And then, boom, they ended up doing it together and loved it. And, you don't have to do that with everything. You're probably not. You golf, right?
I do.
I have a golf story.
Oh, come on.
Okay. So he played golf a lot at one time when he was in drug unit. And
when he was in drugs.
Yeah, when he was in drugs. He played golf all the time. And he was really good at it. He was a member of the country club and all this. Well, I decided he played golf so much, we needed to spend more time together. So I took golf lessons so we could play golf together.
Good for you.
I know. I thought so too. So he doesn't take me to the country club to play golf. He takes me to this little municipal golf course to play golf because he thinks, I guess, I can't play golf. And I was really good when I did play a little bit. But anyway, so one day he took me golfing, and he'd always have to say, where'd your ball go? You got to keep your eye on your ball. He was so insistent about that. He'd get mad about that. But anyway, so
well, in all fairness, it was, where is my golf ball?
I know. I would hit the ball and forget to watch it. So I'd hit somebody else's ball probably. But so when I had to go across this little creek to find it, I stepped in this creek that was nothing but mud, and I had it up to my knees. And I said, I need to go home and wash and change my shoes. And he said, get a leaf and wipe it off. And I'm like, and I never played golf again.
Golf done? No
Never.
more golf. No, you don't need to add anything, bro.
Sometimes men, sometimes they need their own outing.
And that's
they
it.
need their own hobby.
Look.
They don't need me around.
It was third hole.
I could not walk around
And
with all
you-
that mud all over me. My feet were hurting.
And you cannot get an extended green fee just because you got dirty.
Yeah.
I wasn't dirty. I was mud.
So no
Okay.
golf for
No.
you. You're like,
No.
okay, I'm done with
No.
that.
No.
Okay. Well, goals, I think, are different from dreams.
Right.
So how do you support each other's dreams and ambitions? I know you're a dreamer. I've heard you speak.
Well, I think, again, you have to break them down, honestly, between professional and personal dreams. And so the difference is like my professional dreams are very much part of her life. And so they've been something taking us in a common direction. But you know what? We learned a long time ago that if you're not dreaming a dream, if you're not looking forward to something, then you quite honestly, you're just going to sit there and do nothing. And so like on a personal level, when we got married, she wanted to go to Hawaii. Okay. Man, we couldn't even buy gas, and she wanted to go to Hawaii, right?
Everybody wants to go to Hawaii.
And so I told her, I said, I'll take you on our first year anniversary. We didn't go.
No, we didn't.
So I told her, I said,
You clearly remember that.
I did.
I'll take you on our 5th year anniversary.
We didn't go then either.
And
Nor 10.
yeah,
Nor 15.
Joy.
but we did
But it's
go.
a dream.
We did
It's a
go.
dream.
We did go. We did go.
And we dreamed constantly
There you go.
about doing that.
There you go.
And it became something that we commonly wanted together. And so I would just argue that what happens is if my dream's going over here and her dreams are going over here,
There you go.
and we're not communicating that, and if my dreams are for me, then what good is that? And you see, I think that's what happens, Joey, is we lose sight of the fact that my dreams don't impact just me.
Yeah.
And her dreams don't impact just her. And so our dreams are our dreams. And I may be the lead in this dream, if you will, and she may be the lead in this dream, but I'm going to tell you something. Regardless of where we go, we're going together.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
unless we start dreaming different dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that goes back to we dream the dream together.
That's wonderful.
We're dreaming of a remodel, right? No,
Yeah.
just kidding. It's a dream together.
This is a together dream
Dream
that I'm just throwing out there.
Well, she's dreaming. I'm having a nightmare. So,
But it's still a dream. It's still a dream. No matter how you put
We're
it.
still dreaming. So-
That's good. Do you have anything to add
no,
to that?
I agree with that.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, over the 40 plus years of marriage, I know that you walked into a marriage and you had some habits that you had, and you had some habits that were yours. What did you have to change? What habits did you guys have to change in order for your marriage to survive and thrive for as long as it is?
You go first.
Everything, Joey, everything.
you know,
Okay, wait. Am I going to say what habits he needed to change?
Yeah.
Is he going to? Okay. Okay, go ahead.
But you can.
Okay, no, go ahead.
I had no bad habits.
There you go.
Wait,
Next.
let me talk.
I obviously I was not living for the Lord when we got married, and so without digging too deep, there were some things that had to go there. But the habits, I had become so individual, and I wasn't good at letting anyone inside my circle.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn to let her in my circle. But outside of that, I mean, seriously, I right off the top, I mean, because quite honestly, I never quit living life.
We grew up together,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
We were kids when we got married, so we, like she said, we grew up together. But all I did is try to bring her into my world instead of leaving her out of my world. And then she came kicking and screaming into my world.
Well, to piggyback on that, when he said he kind of lived in his world and he had to learn to let me in his world, he did. And because of that, I didn't really at times feel like I was part of his world. I had to learn to leave mom and dad. You know, you're supposed to leave and cleave. And they still were my backup. They were, you know, I wasn't living as the wife I should have been to Richard. So I had to learn to leave home, leave my dad,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And that
Because Dad was always the fix-it guy.
I get that.
You know,
I get that.
so.
I know from my wife in our relationship, it was one of those things. She comes from a divorced family, you know, and one of the things that she kept getting advice from people in the family were, okay, so when he leaves you, okay, so when you're on your own, okay, so this is what you do. This is how you transition. And she's just like, I can't hear that. I've got to stop listening to those type of things. Yeah, there's going to be some bumps in the road, as you guys talked about, but no, leave and cleave. And that's what my wife had to do. She had to leave and cleave to men.
And I think part of it was hard for Richard because my mom and dad, they were an ideal couple. And they loved each other and they loved Richard and I.
Yeah.
And they just wanted to help us a lot in our marriage. Not overstep. And I don't think they ever overstepped. But Richard had to realize that they weren't trying to take me from him.
Yeah.
And he didn't have to do it all on his own. He was very stubborn, you know, and he had to learn to accept help from people who were trying to help because he was pretty independent.
I was there too.
Yeah.
I was there, and you and I have a very similar story of the same age when we were on our own, doing everything on our own, just trying to survive. So you got used to just doing things on your own. And I have to admit, when I got to the place where other people were trying to help, I was very stubborn about that too. I got this.
Yeah.
You know, I've been doing this on my own ever since I was
16, 15.
16.
Well, I never knew kindness because they wanted to be kind. You know, and so kindness was always tied to something.
Yeah.
And so her parents were kind because they wanted to be kind. And that was just not something that clicked in my world. And so it becomes that whole idea of being totally isolated. And I had to learn to put my life in everything in its own box. Yeah. And so it just was, honestly, for us, it was a matter of learning to include her in that.
Wow. Okay. Now I want to move on to some deeper things, if you're okay with that. Faith and values. He doesn't do deep.
Okay.
Faith and values. I mean, obviously, a Christian couple, preacher, preacher's wife. We've got some people out there listening that are Christians. We've got some people who are non-Christians out there listening. And so far, they probably be going, yeah, okay, I can relate to all that. I can relate to everything that they've been saying. But now we're going to get into some of the real meat of why your marriage has lasted for 40 plus years. I believe it is faith and the values that you guys have. And so can you please tell us, how has faith played a role in your marriage?
You go first.
The foundation of our marriage, even when we first entered into marriage, although I was not attending church and I had, the proverbial church hurt, but even at that, I knew what the Bible said about marriage.
Okay.
And I knew what it had to look like. And so one of the things I think that happens is we fail to realize that marriage, in a faith standpoint, there's everything that we need to establish life is in Scripture, and so we had to learn that faith was the key of that. So,
Amen.
Here's the thing: you asked earlier about communication. How do you get along? What do you do when you have a common belief in God, and a common belief that God brought you together, and that God brought you in. Now, I know that some people listening may think that it's preacher talk, as we would say.
Yeah.
But in 41 years, there is one word that has never come out of either one of our mouth,
I know that word.
and that's divorce.
Yep.
We've never said we'd be better off separated, we'd be better off divorced, we'd be better off apart.
Yep.
It has never entered into the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay?
Same here.
And when you understand that the reason we believe that is because we believe that when God put us together is exactly what God did.
Yeah.
And so that is where we're at. So for us, our faith in God gives us a common understanding of what He has done in our life. It gives us an understanding of what love is.
Yeah.
All right. So you take faith out, love becomes an emotion. All right.
Exactly.
I have told Joy 1,000 times this week that, you know, I couldn't live with me.
Amen.
Yeah. You know, if there were two of
second
us,
that.
if there were two of us in our house, the police would be there because there'd be a murder. I'm just telling you, right? So and I recognize that. I mean, I recognize that I'm me and I do me. Okay. And our faith, though, is that common foundation, that common bond that we recognize and understand how important that is. But let me just say, Joey, when you're talking about what faith does in a relationship, okay, so how do you prevent problems in your relationship? Well, first of all, we understand that faith is our balance of communication.
Yeah.
And so we talk. Faith is our balance of budgeting, how we spend our money, what we do with our money. Faith is our balance for the time we spend together.
Yeah.
And on you can go. And so when you talk about where faith works into our marriage and family, it's where is faith not?
Yeah.
You know, and every time we have had a circumstance, a situation arise in our marriage, we both can tell you that we can see where God was absent in that.
Yeah.
And so that's why faith is so important to us.
Amen.
So.
I love that.
I ditto that.
Good.
And yeah, I think that's good. And my faith, I think, I had to learn to let Richard off the hook in marriage, and that God was the one, not Richard. Because I think early on I wanted him to be more than what God equipped him to be, and not who he was designed to be. And God is the God of all comfort and healing and providing, and the Father and the friend. And I had to learn to depend on that and not require it all to come from Richard.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I know I joked about my wife said she married me for my potential, but the reality of that is because she had faith in God and knew through prayer what I could become. And yeah, I was a Christian man, but I was a Christian man just going down a different path that I probably shouldn't have been going down. But she believed that God had a better plan than I had for my own life. And even when we would go through those rough patches, I remember one time she said, it's kind of like you said, I'm letting him off the hook. She said, God, if he does that, I'm blaming you. Right. If this happens, if he goes, or if he does this, if this happens again, I'm not even gonna get mad at him about it. I'm gonna get mad at you about it. Guess what happened? I stopped doing those things. I don't know how that happened, but those stupid things that I was doing completely stopped. And I know how it happened because she prayed and she trusted by faith in God that God needed to do the work in my life. She's not changing me.
That's right.
But God can change.
Well, and you know, a comment was made earlier. Yes, God brought us together and we become one. But we're also two individuals.
Yes.
And if there's ever been two individuals that are opposites, it's Joy and I. There's not a lot I'm afraid of. There's not a lot she's not afraid of.
Yep. But I got you, babe.
Yeah. and so, I mean, honestly, and it's like she said, you know, so I've got a few scars from things that probably wasn't the smartest thing a human ever did.
Yeah.
But I got a cool story that goes with every one of them scars.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. and she's let me, and I say that literally, she has let me live my life, but it's not been my life, it's been our life. She walks with that through me.
Might as
with
well.
me,
He's going to do it
you know.
anyway.
Yeah. I am. But I think that becomes the key is I have recognized her
Yeah.
and what she wants out of life and what she needs to be happy. And she recognizes me and the individual things that I need in life. And I think that becomes part of our faith is recognizing that God created us as we are. And so we haven't spent a lifetime trying to change one another.
There you go.
And I think that I listen so often as the fight in the home is I want them to be like. And and they try to change them.
Oh yeah.
And of course you got a war when that happens. And I always ask in those circumstances, I always ask the same question. So are they different now than they were when you got married? and of course they're mad about the same things that attracted them.
Yeah, exactly. Man, that's crazy. I know my wife and I are just so different from each other. I mean, you're talking true city boy meets country girl. You know that. You know. She country girl driving a F-150 red pickup truck in overalls, and I'm city boy.
Yeah, but you have baby horses.
I do have a baby horse. You know what? You hurt my feelings often. Okay, so
I know.
You understand?
I'm sorry. That's all I can say. I'm sorry.
So
That's it.
can you give us a or some biblical principles that guide your relationship?
Yeah, I think honestly, it goes back. The very first thing is it truly is an Ephesians 5:6 marriage. We understand that her role in our relationship is to follow my lead.
Yeah.
Okay. But my role is to lead.
Yeah.
All right. So what happens is well, quite honestly, guys get lazy. They somehow or another think that, well, I went to work. Well, so did she probably. And I can tell you right now, she stayed home with our daughters. And I will tell you, right, the very, very, very few times, and I wish I could say more, but the very few times I stayed home with them, buddy, she was worth more money than I'd ever be worth. You know?
The funniest thing that ever happened was I said, yeah, honey, you go out. I'll stay with you.
Oh.
She came home and I said, baby, I understand you. And boom. I mean, our relationship just grew from that moment because she was able to say, you understand me now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I understand you. You can have this.
Yeah.
Go on, baby.
Yeah. So it is absolutely so vital that we have understood that she can only follow a leader that's leading.
Amen.
All right. And so what happens is I see guys all the time get frustrated, get angry, get mad, and my first question to them is, where are you leading her?
Yeah.
You think your job sit back and tell her what to do? Well, let me tell you something. I'm not going to talk to you if you sit back and try to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
But you lead me, and that's a different story. And so I think she'll tell you that in all the years we've been married, I don't think there was ever a time that I was not leading us somewhere. Now, and the other side of that is the love, where the leadership is not a selfish leadership, but a love-based leadership.
Yeah.
And I'll just tell you right now, Joey, and then when kids come, and we'll talk about that later, I'm assuming. But
we are.
But when kids come, that comes Ephesians 6, and that becomes the Ephesians family I talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in our marriage, you know, we both have learned those ever so important and ever so key words, and that's very simply, I'm sorry. And if you'll
Very much so.
if you'll just learn how to say that, it makes all the difference in the world. But it's I would argue that it's based on that leadership principle that, and I'm telling you right now, I blame it all on the guy. It's just bottom line. If he's leading,
and there's a fear in leadership, and I'm going to let you answer, but you say that as a guy, I remember early on, my wife said, you're the leader. And I heard her sharing with other people before, it's better for him to lead me into the poorhouse or lead me into this place over here than for me to try to take control and lead us to a better place. It's and hearing that I'm going,
that's a lot of pressure.
There's a whole lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But what does that make a brother do?
Lead.
I need to take this to the Lord.
Yeah.
Lord, you need to lead. You need to guide me because I do not want to lead my family down the wrong path.
Well, there have been times, not many, but a few times where Joy has said to me, I don't know. I'm just trusting you're following God. Well, now, let me tell you, I would rather her disagree. I would rather her argue with me. I would rather, instead of saying, I'm just going to believe you're following God.
Trusting that you believe. Yeah.
And that increases the pressure of the leadership. But
Yeah.
but I would argue, Joey, on that if a husband's not leading, there's no one for her to follow.
Yeah.
And the rest of the Ephesian model collapses if he's not out front.
Yeah. I'll take that, man.
I'm sorry, my mind always goes to non-biblical things when we're having these
That's
discussions.
okay. That's okay.
I remember one time we were on a mission trip, and we were in Alaska, and we were running late for the airplane, and he had 12 of us, and we were trying to find out where we needed to go, and we see this elevator, and there's this huge sign that says authorized personnel only, and Richard's like, everybody in the elevator. So I'm like,
I was authorized.
I'm like, we can't get in the elevator. It's authorized only. And he goes, everybody in the elevator, everybody in the elevator. So we get in the elevator, and you had to have a key once you're inside the elevator to make the doors open back, to make the elevator go anywhere. So Richard led these 12 people with all these different emotions. We're stuck on this elevator, and he's having to ring the bell. We need help, and they want to know, well, how did you get in there? It says authorized.
No.
Richard is so bad, and we have ladies crying. We have one lady laughing hysterically. One all of a sudden has to go to the bathroom. Another one's getting ready to pass out. So Richard's got all these people because you let us in the wrong elevator. Anyway,
My wife's biggest nightmare is being trapped in an elevator.
Oh,
dude.
well.
She would have been.
We were.
Dude.
Don't travel with me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to do it anyway. So
Oh, my goodness.
The other side of leadership, though, is 1 Corinthians, the love chapter,
Yes.
and
Yes, indeed.
reading through that and knowing what love is in a marriage. And I think that's key too.
And I'm guessing you guys do things together, so I'm going to ask this one because there's a lot of couples out there who need to know the importance of this. How do you incorporate prayer or spiritual growth into your marriage?
Oh, I got a good one for that.
Come on.
Okay. More for spiritual growth because we pray together, but I think most of our prayers separately just because of our schedules and
course.
stuff. But we do stop and drop and pray a lot sometimes when things call. But I think the spiritual growth comes from serving together. And actually, I asked my girls when I was asking them about, what do you remember in marriage and stuff like that? And both of them said service and said Dad sets the example on that big time. And I think that helps us grow spiritually as a couple when we are doing mission trips together or serving in the church together. Even if it's just an event at the church, you normally will see us serving at the event. And we are not the type to be served. And that helps, I think, grow a lot. I think a lot of times in a marriage, people think they use the wrong barometer of what a good marriage is. And I think they say, oh, well, we get along most of the time, or our family, we pay our bills, or we communicate, or date night. I mean, that's important. But then I also hear them say, but something is missing. We don't know what it is. And I think it's that spiritual growth element.
Absolutely.
I think they need to ask God, what do you want us to do as a couple? What do you want us to do as a family? And then find that and do it. That has helped me grow more spiritually as when we were serving together, I think, than anything.
And I think that's key, and it's really good because my wife and I, so I'm a musician. My wife could not hold a note for the life of her. It doesn't matter how
Same.
hard. She just would not be able to hit a note. So here I am. I'm serving. I'm doing choir. I'm doing worship at a church, but I'm not doing the ministry with my wife. And there was a moment where it dawned on us, this is something we can do together. It's something we can do there because I need sheets printed. I need all time. There's things in my ministry that she could be doing with me. And when she came alongside of me to be my helpmeet, that she's called to be, our relationship grew so much better just in her serving in an area with me that she has absolutely no clue about.
Yeah.
Like she couldn't tell anybody what note to sing, how to do, what a harmony is, none of that stuff. If you're on key or off key, but now she can because she knows. But she couldn't do any of that. But she came alongside of me and served with me, and we watched our marriage just flourish from that moment.
Yeah, and again, as Joy said, the first 10 years of ministry, it was single staff churches.
Yeah.
And so it took both of us to do the work of the ministry. And so we've just walked together and spent so much time together. We've been on so many mission trips. We've been all over the world serving God together. She's supported me in speaking engagements and different things that I had in places. But it's not just supporting me. It's she's been my sounding board. She's typed and retyped stuff and on you could go.
A lot.
Yeah, my wife. So I like type up things the way I speak. And just yesterday, I typed up something and I did it. And my wife, she was just homesick. She wasn't feeling good. I said, "Baby, do you have time to talk?" Like, okay, you don't have to talk. Can you just listen?
Yeah.
And she never responded back to me. So I'm like, all right, I'm on my own with this one. And so I wrote up this article and I sent it off, right?
Oops.
And then so she finally, 40 minutes later, she was like, "Yes, baby, I can listen to you." And so I called her. I said, "Okay, well, since you weren't able to do it, here's what I did." And I read to her what I wrote. She says, "Oh, I hope they edit that."
Yeah.
And she wasn't even kidding. She was just like, oh. She's like, "Do you write the way you speak?" Right. Yeah. That's not. No, you don't want to.
You got to use punctuation.
Oh, wait, I use punctuations
Okay.
in my text messages, which I hear is all wrong, but that's okay. That's a whole nother story. Okay, are we adding anything else to that? Okay. So, again, it's like you're reading my questions ahead of time. But, yes, we're about to get into family and parenting. And I know there's some young couples out there, new parents out there. I know some personally in our church that are starting this marriage, and then right away they're having kids thrown into that marriage. Now, that happened with us. I mean, we call our first child the honeymoon child. We were like, "Oh, no. Okay, well, guess we're parents now." How did marriage change when children came into the picture?
It got harder.
Yeah.
I mean, we were married 5 years before we had our first daughter. And we still weren't ready for it. We thought, oh, it's going to be so sweet. We're going to have a new baby and we're just going to be this perfect little family. No. I mean, it just doubled the problems, the finances, the exhaustion, stuff everywhere. I mean, just it made it hard.
Right. In full disclosure, it changed my life very little.
It changed my life a lot.
I mean,
And that's typical. I mean, that's just, honestly, that's a typical story.
and it's a generational thing too. We had a meeting with our young parents dedicating Children's Sunday, and one of the things I told them, to me, it's really cool to watch young dads help out today. In my generation,
In this generation, they actually get time off to do that.
Yeah.
Now. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I had a kid and I had to go right back to work.
yeah, I wanted to go right back to work, but for me, when I look at and recognize how easy it seemed to me early, because I wasn't home.
Yeah.
I mean, I was gone all the time, and I wasn't out goofing off with friends. I was out working, and
Well, you were working 3 jobs so we could pay the bills.
Pay the bills.
I mean,
and so I would come home at 2:30, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I never got to see Melissa because I literally worked all the time. So I would wake her up and see her or whatever, so when my 5 minutes were up.
Yeah.
the baby was up.
Baby's up.
Baby
I was
wasn't ready
going to
go
bed,
after
and
that.
I'd go get Joy, and I'd go, "Baby won't go back to bed." So but that was just like I say it. Now, as we grew and as life grew, then yeah, I mean, it began to be a real life change for me as well. But
You remember that time you woke her up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I was so tired. I said, honey, I cannot get up. I said, just put her in her swing and she'll go back to sleep. He put her in her swing and he didn't fasten it. And he goes, he pulls it way back like this and she just falls flat out on her face. That poor.
Come on, dude, come on.
So she's screaming. We're all up now.
Well, yeah,
I'm
now
like,
you're up.
I said, just go to bed. I'll take care of the baby.
But in full disclosure, I was never asked to get up with the baby again.
You were never asked to put her in the swing. That's for sure.
Now, I
Dude, I'm sorry.
You
you don't come back from that one.
He struggles.
Bam!
That's what happened.
oh, that's just the scratch of the surface.
Yep.
Oh, that's so sad.
He tried.
Thank you.
He tried.
Thank you for saying he tried.
But you go back and you look at children coming in, family coming in. Right? Joy will tell you, no, I didn't get up with them. I didn't know what to do with them. Okay, and I know. Okay, I get it. Guys can learn. I understand it, but I didn't. All right. Now back in the day, you had to make the bottles and you had to boil the bottles and Joy will tell you she never had to look for a bottle.
That's right. Every morning I woke up, the bottles were ready.
I would come home. I would get all the bottles ready. I would get everything together. I would get everything out. I mean, I served.
So the prep work was still done.
I did what I knew how to do.
There you go.
And that's what I would encourage guys to do. And you can't just sit back and do nothing, and you can't just sit back and wait on somebody else to do it. And this goes back to what we were talking about. You both have to raise that child together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think, when they're little, it's hard. It was hard for him. He had no idea what to do with the baby, and that was fine. I didn't either, but I knew a little more than he did, lock the swing. But the girls now, as they got older, they have sweet memories. I asked the girls earlier, I said, I'm going to be on this podcast that I said I wasn't going to do again. And Joey's going to ask us questions about marriage and family and all that. I said, what's some sweet things you remember? And Megan's like, we're not really sweet. And I'm like, I said, well, come on. So they started listing these things they remembered about Richard and when they were young. And after they started listing them, they said, okay, I guess we don't give Dad enough credit. Maybe he is sweet.
See?
So, it's the little things that meant a lot.
It really is.
So I don't want him to make it sound like he didn't do anything. He did.
No, he did something.
Yeah.
Did he
Something.
never put a child in the swing again, though?
Never.
Okay, good. That much we don't want you doing.
Yep.
Are there any parenting values that you guys can kind of look at parents and say, hey, here's a value that you really need to hold on to?
It's a partnership.
Amen.
Here's what happens in far too many relationships. They don't partner together. And so they don't parent that child in a common direction. And it did absolutely no good for our girls to go and ask the other parent, because they already knew the answer, right? And they knew that life would not end well for them if they tried to pit us one against the other. And so it literally goes back to you got to parent together. You got to partner together on that. And so that would be the first thing. And the other thing that for me that I would really recommend, and you and I've talked about this so many times, it's time, man.
It is.
You got to spend time with them. And
Yep.
no matter how busy life gets, no matter how crazy life gets, you know what? Whether you planned it, Joy and I were fortunate. Both our daughters were almost to the day on the calendar plan that we had. But you either plan it or it's the honeymoon surprise.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's yours.
It absolutely is.
And so that is a partnership.
Yeah, and you and I have said this before. Children spell love with 4 different letters.
Right.
T-I-M-E.
Right.
Most important thing for a kid. That's how they see love.
Right.
Yeah.
And we are very different in how we raised our children. I was one that wanted to talk to them, and we'll figure it out. I think I got 2 spankings in my entire life. I think Richard got a spanking every day through high school even. But so we handled,
start the day off with a
handled
spanking.
things differently, for what he's going to do. I remember one time, Megan, I don't know what she did this time, but he had just had it, and she slammed her door. Well, he took her door off the hinges, and she's like, he took my bedroom doorway, and I'm like, yeah. So I thought that was a horrible idea, but I wasn't going to go over him now and change what he has done. So now
Guess what's not happening anymore? There's not a door that's getting
not
slammed.
slamming that door. But one thing I think is important that I see parents struggle with is teaching your children to honor their mother and father so that their lives will be long on the earth. I mean, there's
Amen.
a promise
The
to that.
comes with it.
But you don't see that a lot in some families, and that's scary.
Yeah.
So we got to figure out how to teach that honor, love, and respect.
Absolutely. Very important.
You know, our daughters, they knew that there were 3 basic ways that I would respond to something they said to their mom. You know, one, I would respond, you know what, we don't talk like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Stepping that up was, you're not going to talk to your mom that way.
Yep.
But the kiss of death in our home
Yep.
was when they heard me say, that is my wife you're talking to. And I think that the kids began to really recognize that Joy and I were in that together.
Yeah.
And they recognized how important that was. And they saw the honor your mother,
Yeah.
honor your father. And I think that is absolutely essential.
Yeah.
And consistency.
That's the key.
You
You've
know?
got to be consistent with it. You have to be a united front together. You can't let your children pin you against each other. And believe me, they will try.
Right.
Even though the kids know, man, our parents will never disagree with each other. But if I go to this one and say this, you know, and then I can go, well, my dad said this. Well, and then here's my wife. My wife will never go against anything that I've told them they could do, because now that looks like a division. But you know what she will do? We need to talk.
Yeah.
I think I told you one more. I got a call once from my wife. I'll never forget. It was after service. She calls me on a Wednesday night. She says, baby, you need to come home. We need to talk. I said, oh, no. What happened? Is one of the kids in trouble? She said, no, it's you.
You're in trouble.
And so now I'm thinking, what? I said, well, baby, tell me. She said, no, just wait till you get home. What? I still got to turn the lights off. I got to do everything. So I'm like, everybody needs to get out of church. Get out of the church. I got to go home. I got to have a talk. You know, and we took a drive. We took a drive down 61, an hour one direction, just talking, because she let me know, hey, this is what one of the kids did. And she says, I know you didn't do this against me. So I'm going to start with that. I know this wasn't against me, but here's what happened. Here's how it happened. We need to make sure that we're on the same page. And I get that. Whew, okay, I'm not in that much trouble. It's really the kid who's in trouble, but the kid got me in trouble. Now I'm mad at the kid for getting me in trouble. But anyway.
But you know, I hear, and I'm sure this is going to load some comments, but I hear parents negotiate with kids. And it gives me an ulcer, you know, and I'm like, be the parent.
Yep.
And Joy and I both will tell you that as we look back on life, and our girls will tell you that the biggest crisis that occurred in their life was when we allowed them because they wore us down. Mm-hmm. Okay? There's not but a handful. I mean, I'm telling you, there are very, very few of them. But you cannot let that kid wear you down. Yeah. You can't. You've got to be the parent. And you know, you've heard me say so many times, everyone wants to be the leader till it's time to lead.
Yep.
Well, guess what, parents?
Yeah.
You say, well, I didn't sign up for this. Well, actually you did. And you are the parent.
Yeah.
And you have to parent.
Yeah.
And
Amen.
The thing about it is you're going to parent. You have no choice whatsoever. Mm-hmm. You just have to decide how easy or how hard it's going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the kid decides that sometimes.
Yeah.
They're going to make it real hard for you, huh?
I mean, I asked Melissa one time, or I asked both the girls about, you know, what they remember about Dad. And Melissa's memories and her thoughts were when Dad was so sweet and calm and he talked her through, and he just hugged her, let her cry or whatever. Megan's memories are all of how Dad responded to Megan because Megan was our button pusher, and she'd be like, "Dad's so mad," and I'm like, "Yeah, Dad's mad."
That's so funny. Okay, I know I brought this up earlier with my wife and I. We, because of the children in our house, we actually go away for date night so that we can, have time for each other. But for you guys, there are no kids in the house. But as they were in the house, how did you prioritize your relationship with each other while raising kids? Because a lot of times I've seen in marriage, and I know you've seen it, I'm sure you've seen it too, where the kid now becomes the focus in the relationship. Right. They're getting all the attention, they're getting everything, and the spouse is missing out on that relationship that they had with each other because a kid is in the way. And I don't think you ever should let that happen. Yeah, you do have a kid, and that kid was birthed out of love, yes. But because they were birthed out of love, because of your relationship, you've got to make sure your relationship is still key. It's still central. Right. But kids, as you have said before, can make it hard. So how did you guys prioritize your relationship with kids?
Well, from early in our marriage, I mean, literally as kids came, of course, that wasn't early. Again, we were 5 years into it. But we have intentionally set the weekend time away where we would take a couple of days. And her parents were wonderful. They were just there. They stepped in and they were there. But we've taken trips, our trips. Yeah. And it to me that's just important. You have to work that out. And I know you get into, and the argument always comes up, well, what about I don't have babysitters and I don't have all this? Find another couple that has kids. Do the trade-off. They'll do it. Find a way to make it work. But it is intentionally, purposely carving out that time that the other one needs and craves and has to have. And so it just becomes a very intentional effort.
Yeah, and I know that's hard for new moms
to
say, hey, I've got to, what do you mean I've got to give up my kid? I've got to let go of my kid. And I want to say it was 2-3 weeks, when AJ was born. The nurse, because we were friends with the nurse who actually did, she's like, you realize I'm a nurse. I know how to take care of kids, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to watch your kid. Right. This is how much time you have between this feeding and the next time you have to feed. Go take that time. I'm going to be with your kid. You guys need to connect with each other. And I thought, wow, she really thinks this is important. I didn't think it was as important at the time. I'm thinking, no, my wife wants to be with the kid. It's an important thing to be with the kid. And please hear me. Yes, it's very important to be with your kid. Right. But it's really important to connect with your spouse.
Over the years, I have been around so many people that are terrified of the empty nest. Mm. And the reason being is they build their entire life around kids, and they don't even realize, they don't even know how to talk to one another. Mm-hmm. They don't have any common interest in one another. Yep. They don't honestly know one another. Mm-hmm. And so suddenly the kids move out and they're just two strangers living in a house.
Yeah. What do we do?
And so, I mean, Joy and I have tried to build the safeguards to prevent that. And it's funny because when we did get to go to Hawaii, Megan was convinced she was going.
And she packed her little bags. It was so sad.
And she was going. She was going. And her mom told her, you're not going. She woke up the next morning, Joy and I were gone. She just could not believe we went to Hawaii without her. But you have to do that, Joy. I just want to put it this way. If you love one another, you can love the kids. And if you're angry at one another, I don't care who you are or what you are, that anger is going to come out in the kids. It just is. And so that relationship between husband and wife is going to be 80% of the relationship with that child. Yeah. And it's hereditary, man. That child, generational, I guess is a better word, that child learns what marriage is supposed to look like. Mm-hmm. And so what kind of pattern are you putting out there?
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to come back to that one.
I think you have to set aside the time like you're talking about, especially when they're little. Well, always, even if they get older. But there is a point that they're too young to understand my husband comes first, that you're not first.
Yeah.
But when they get old enough to understand, wait while I talk to your dad, wait, Dad and I, I think you've got to teach them that early on. Otherwise, they learn to control the marriage and the family, and they need to see I'm not 1st. I'm second after my spouse.
Real easy for a kid to come and take control.
Yeah.
And now they're running your household. I've seen that in families where the kid is running their household. And, my wife had to sit and we'd talk to them and let them know and give them some guidance of what they need to now do to connect. And
you better do it early.
Stop letting that kid run the house because once they do,
do it early.
It's hard to get your house back. It really is. Okay, so now I want to get into fun and romance in relationship. Okay, this is going to be the last thing we do, fun and romance. What are some of your favorite things to do together? I know it's not golf.
Nope.
I know that much.
Nope, not golf. I think we both would probably say our motorcycle trips. We like to do that, take a couple weeks and go across the country and do our motorcycle trips. One of my favorite things, and most people think it sounds so boring, but is in the evenings when we sit down and watch TV together. I snuggle, he lets me snuggle. He's not a big snuggler, but we just watch TV together.
You just snuggle.
Hey.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Now I'm going to get in trouble. You're fired.
I mean,
he lets me snuggle.
That's correct. Say that loud again into the mic.
He lets me snuggle.
Right. It hurts, but I take it.
Well, and he says that sometimes when he hugs me. I mean, we were so different when we got married. And when he would hug me, even now, I say, all right, you're going to have to hug me like you mean it. And I make him redo the hug because, that's not who he is. It's okay.
You don't side hug your wife, man. I'm just...
You don't? We, again, we love riding our motorcycle. But I will tell you, and Joy said it, one of the most enjoyable things is, like I said a moment ago, it takes a lot for me to schedule out of my dinner plans. It's just, that's her time.
Yeah.
20 years ago, I guess, we got rid of recliners and we bought a love seat.
Yeah.
Reclining love seat. And that's all we've had since. And the girls, when they were at home, they could sit there until the spouse came home. And then out of her seat, out of my seat, right?
Walk it or fly. That's what Richard say. Walk it or fly. Get out of the seat.
You can get up and walk, or I'm gonna throw you out. But it's up to you.
Yeah.
All right. But the girls laugh at us because we go and we got dinner trays and we make our dinner and we go and we sit down in our love seat and we look at one another and we pull the seat up and everything. The girls
making us sound old.
Yeah, the girls just die. Well, we've done it for years though, and the girls just die laughing. But that's our time. That's our place, right?
Love it.
We very much enjoy the motorcycle. That is. And we enjoy going with people and traveling with people and things, but we love our time, and because that's the time we connect. All right. And then we go to the river, we go fishing together.
Just our time.
But I'm going to say something I think is very key to what you said about that whole thing. This didn't start last year.
No.
This has been something you guys started back when you were younger, and you have continued that in your relationship to where you guys are now, and you enjoy doing that together.
Exactly. And I would argue that's the whole thing, is that you just have to progress with it. You got to grow with it. You got to grow with your marriage. Of course, when kids were at home, we didn't do the motorcycle. I mean, we did when they got older, but as the saying goes, life is seasons and so when
couldn't afford it.
Yeah. But I think it's finding those things that you enjoy doing together, and it's doing those things that your spouse enjoys doing that might not be at the top of your list, and doing those things together.
I love that. So this is probably going to be for some of the older couples out there.
Older than us?
Well,
No, we're pretty old.
no, you're right there at the age that I'm talking about.
I'm going to be 60 this year. Tell him not to forget to get me a present.
Okay, don't forget. How do you keep romance alive in your marriage? I mean, you're talking 40 plus years, and you guys aren't, because you have said it. we don't just partners at home. We don't just kind of hang out at the house. You guys still do things together, and you enjoy doing it together. And I know that there is romance in that because of what you do. How do you keep that alive? 40 plus years.
Okay, you know me and you ask me that question. I mean, I'm just a romantic devil, man.
Oh, he's not.
There you go.
I mean, really?
Ricardo. Not Richard now. I'm Ricardo.
No. Just
No,
no.
he's your
Just
rich.
No.
That's right. It goes back to time. It goes back to intentionality. It goes back to being very purposeful in what you do and how you do it. And for me, it is following her lead a lot of times in areas that they're just, again, it's outside my wheelhouse.
So to keep marriage alive, romance alive, I think you have to think about what kills it and kind of maybe avoid some of those things.
That's key.
Because there are stressors in life, and we all have them, that will kill the romance. So try to deal with those first. And one thing, and people probably think I'm silly unless you're a woman, but they might get this. But again, I was talking to the girls about this podcast because I don't like podcasts and I don't like being here. And they started just going back through the times that was what was the funniest part of the family and what was the sweetest part. And that made me just love him that much more. And I thought, he's not that old rough brute. He is a fun, sweet, guy. So that to me, just remembering the good times and being intentional about remembering good times, I think that keeps the romance alive.
Everybody's going to see your husband so differently after this podcast.
Oh, I could go on so they would see him for sure. But
there's going to be a lot of editing in this podcast.
Yeah. I haven't said anything that should be edited, have I? I've really been good on this one. So.
No, I'm saying for his sake, to keep his man card, because he's losing his man card every time you talk.
Yeah,
okay.
But for romance for a woman, I feel like our children are very important to us. So if he loves my children well, I just love him for that. So.
Okay. Here's the last question of the day.
Okay, go ahead.
And then I'll let you go. I know you've been scared, but you've been wonderful this whole time. Real quick, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
What's the most memorable moment in your marriage?
Oh my goodness, he won't remember this.
Well, that's why it's not his memorable moment.
We were at the beach with friends, and we were on the golf cart, and I fell off the back of the golf cart, and I fell flat down, and I think I broke my toe. And I look up. I mean, I'm scratched. I've got all this dirt and dust and sand in my mouth, and I look up, and here comes Richard in this goofy hat, his T-shirt, his swim trunks, and his flip-flops, and he's saying, "I'm a-coming, baby, I'm a-coming." And he always has. He's always been there.
That's
He's
great.
always picked me up and taken care of me.
That's wonderful.
And that is a sweet memory that I have of our wedding,
I love that.
even though I broke my toe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Last thing, most memorable moment.
top that.
Honestly, and being serious, I don't have a most memorable as much as I have most memorable moments.
Because the oldest memory's gone.
That's right. But for me, the most memorable moments would honestly be those times that we've been spontaneous, that we've just decided to take off and go somewhere, do something, spend time together. But going back to the motorcycle trips, I mean, I can go back to just that time. And I know that it's not that moment, but it is. I love the time we're together, and seriously, we try to do 2 trips a year, and I no sooner finish one than I start looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, that's great.
And so for me, those memorable moments are just constantly building.
Man, I love that. I really appreciate you guys coming. I know it went much longer than you were probably anticipating. You were like, wait, there's a lot of questions. Yes, there are a lot of questions, but I think our listeners and our viewers needed to hear from you guys, especially as we're coming up on the Love Month and the Love Day and Valentine's Day. No, you guys are talking about real love, real marriage, real life, and real faith in your marriage. So as we close this out, will you just give us, as we always do, a reality is about marriage?
Okay. The reality is God first.
Amen.
Your spouse second.
Yeah.
Then the kids, as God allows those. then your jobs,
Yep.
then your hobbies.
Amen.
Okay. And when you put it in priority and you run it the way God said run it, then your marriage is going to be what God designed it to be. And so that would be my reality is.
Man, I love that. Thank you guys so very much. Appreciate you joining us. And guys, thank you for viewing and listening The Reality Is podcast, where we were here today talking about real life and real faith. Do us a favor. Why don't you like, subscribe, share with your friends, and let us know in the comments section if there's anything you would like to hear us talking about. We would love to be able to talk about that topic. But for now, we'd like to say God bless you and have a wonderful day.
The reality is where real life meets real faith. The reality is where real life meets real